Welcome to The Worthy Woman, a podcast for the intuitive, ambitious woman who's ready to regulate her nervous system, reconnect with her body, and rise to the next level of success, health, and purpose. I'm your host, Jo, manual osteopath, holistic coach, and nervous system guide, here to walk with you as you heal from the inside out and create a life and a business that actually feels good. On this podcast, we explore the connection between your body, emotions, subconscious patterns, and your ability to lead, create, and live from your worth. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode. Today, we are talking about how you can tell your nervous system is sabotaging your business growth. So I have my notes here today, as always, kind of keep me on track here. But we are basically going to talk about the nervous system, patterns and things that can maybe be showing up for you that you might not realize is your nervous system. Because a lot of us women, we have really good ideas. We have really good, business. Maybe business is already established, but we have really good business ideas, business offers, business suites, like whatever the thing is that you do for business. We have all these ideas, we have all these things, and maybe if we are feeling even stuck in our ideas, we know that there's potential, right? But a lot of times we feel stuck or we feel overwhelmed with where our business is currently at, where we want to get it to go, especially if you're anything like me, I have definitely felt this way in my business where, there's this next level that I'm trying to get to or what I would like things to be. And when we're not there or when we're doing all of the things, we're doing all the strategies, we're doing all of the, the things that everybody tells us, the gurus, the business, business experts, I guess. We're doing all those things that they tell us to do, but we're still not seeing results, or we're still struggling with maybe showing up consistently. However it's showing up, a lot of times those are things deeper than just the strategy of your marketing or of your business. It can come down to how things are structured for sure in your business and whether your business is actually set up in a way that's like supportive for you. But what this episode is really about is talking about how our nervous system influences the ability to be successful in our life or in our business, or get to that level of success that we're trying to reach in our business. So there's different states of our nervous system that we can be in. And when I started learning this alongside of I'm into human design and astrology and all those sorts of things. So for me, I feel like that has helped me trust what I've always kind of felt about myself and kind of how I am. It's allowed me to, those avenues have allowed me to live more authentically or given myself permission in a way. But the nervous system piece is what's really helped guide me on what do I really need to look at? How are these things, how is my stress and my energy levels and everything connected to how I show up or how I'm being on a day-to-day basis? So there's 4 categories of your nervous system states. So there's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And so if you guys have been listening to me before or you follow me on Instagram and stuff, you have probably heard me talk of these before. And they can show up in our business. And oftentimes we will resonate with kind of a couple or multiple or maybe all of them, but there's probably going to be one that you predominantly find yourself in the most. I actually have a free quiz on determining which state you're typically in for the most part, kind of your more default state, your dominant state. So if you guys are interested in that, it will be in the show notes. But there's the four states. And we, like I said, can bounce around between each of these states. We might have different ones at different times, or even certain situations typically have you reacting a certain type of way. So the first one is fight or fight response. So fight. like punching, for those of you who are listening. This is like the hustle. This is the hustle. This is the grind. This is the like, I gotta sacrifice everything to be successful. This is the push. This is that very masculine, like bro marketing that's been pushed a lot over the last however many years. And this is where it's like we're hustling, but we don't feel like we're there, and we have to push and we have to like keep going. We probably are overworking in that state. We are probably just struggling to feel like we can rest, or that if like a common thought is like, well, I can't not do that. Like I'm going to fall behind, or like that panic kind of starts to set in, right? So you might be struggling with like resting or delegating tasks and feeling like you have to do everything, right? And you can't take a break. You got to keep going, right? Or there's just like not enough time in a day. And so it's like almost like this. It's to me, in my body, when I've felt this way, it's like this anxiousness, this like panic a little bit of like, oh my God, like how am I going to get this all done? And like, how do I, like it's like your mind is running a mile a minute. Your body feels anxious. You feel tight. Your chest feels tight, right? Like there's all these symptoms, right? Signs that start to show up mentally, physically, emotionally, right? When you're feeling that way, it's a cue that you actually need rest the most, as much as it's uncomfortable. And that's kind of the interesting piece, is that with each of these states, the thing that feels the most uncomfortable is the thing that needs to be implemented to help you re-regulate. Now, with that being said, we need tools to help us regulate, to help us implement the thing that feels scary. Because if the thing feels scary, we're going to probably resist it. We're going to probably avoid it, right? Which, again, typically happens with each of these responses. And that's because it's unsafe, it's unfamiliar. So that is the fight mode. It is very much like, I got to keep pushing, I got to keep doing, I got to keep going. And it's this like panic, anxious type of, and it might be very well hidden in like, I'm responsible and I'm always taking action and I'm always putting in effort and I'm always working hard. And so it can be hidden in that, and it can be sabotaging us because it's burning us out, right? Like it can be really burning us out. It can be really, we can be taking action on things that aren't in alignment with us, right? And so, I mean, that's kind of the general aspect of nervous system dysregulation in business. And so it's working with our system to kind of counteract that, and how can we look at that a little deeper, which we'll get into. Then we have flight mode. So this is the person who's like, this reminds me, and I don't mean to be like rude because I've totally been there. This reminds me of the person at a workplace that like runs around and looks busy, but is really doing nothing. So this is the person who is constantly pivoting or changing their offers, outside of like, it's not to say that if things aren't in alignment, you shouldn't pivot, because you absolutely should. But this is like the person who never really gets anywhere and just keeps pivoting. They're not really trial and erroring anything. They're just kind of like just pivoting to pivot so that they can kind of just on to the next thing. This is also, like starting things but not finishing things. So again, that kind of ties into that pivoting piece, like constantly hip hopping around. And a lot of times there's like a perfectionism thing there. It's like, it's not perfect, so I'm gonna jump, or it's like, I don't feel like I can make it what I want, so I gotta pivot, I gotta jump. Overconsumption, especially when it comes to like learning things, or I just need to learn more of this, I just need to learn more of that. And so you're constantly in this learning, but never in the doing. And then you could feel very scattered and overwhelmed with like ideas. So like there's all these insights, all these things coming in towards you. And again, it keeps you in this like distracted mode. So again, it can look like you're working really hard on your business. You're doing lots of things, you're trying lots of things, but are you really getting anywhere? And this can be a sabotaging state, we'll say. Because again, you're not seeing the progress. It's preventing you from seeing growth. Again, there's a fine line. Obviously, we still want to learn things. Obviously, we still want to pivot when we know we should be. But it's the constant hip hopping around to different things and trying different things and never really actually putting anything into action. I have people like this that I've seen in my life. I have totally been that person as well. a common thing that I feel like is important for you if you're dealing with this is that I would really take a look at like what point in your journey of whatever you're working on do you give up? And I say that loosely. I don't say give up, but do you start to pivot? Okay. So there's a person in my life who does this a lot, and they pivot or change at the same point in every project, process, business, right? And so it's like that thing that you're avoiding, it's probably showing you something. So that point in which you pivot, there's an avoidance there of something. And what is that, right? It could be a certain point in your business or a certain point in what you have to do that feels uncomfortable for you. And it's showing you that there's a block there. And you probably need to work and regulate with like yourself there to get over that hurdle. Then we have freeze response. So this is the point in which you'll feel kind of stuck. There's also a lot of procrastination with this one of like, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow, oh, I'll just do it later, or oh, I just need to take a rest, right? I've totally been in this one. Freeze response is definitely just in general, like outside of business, just in my life. I was in fight a lot, which I would say I only catch myself in that one every so often. But freeze response is absolutely, absolutely where I kind of just in my life get caught up, where I just like, it's like I burn myself out, and that's typically what I move into. So you might be struggling or feel stuck on like what's next to do or your next steps, or you're just struggling to take the next step. So you know what the step is, but the taking the step is the hardest part, like to get yourself to move. You could be, and that could be because you're struggling to make decisions. So you're just kind of caught in this like in-between zone. And again, there could be this awareness of like what I need to do, but there could also be this like indecision, and it's keeping you in this like limbo space. Procrastinating, like what I talked about. And you could also feel very distant or disconnected from your mission or what you're trying to do, or maybe you have a business and you're just like, you are very passionate about it, but then you go through these lulls of just like not feeling connected or feeling almost like you've lost your passion, but there's still an interest, right? So you could just kind of feel this like numb, distant, disconnected feeling. And so that is, again, this one's usually like a little bit more of like a very obvious or more obvious avoidant. Like you're kind of like, I know I should be doing these things, but why am I not doing them? Why do I not have the energy? Why do I not have the passion? Why do I just feel kind of flat, right? Yeah, reminds me of like, I'm getting like the image or the feeling of like flat pop. Like there's no fizz, there's no bubbly, right? It's like, it's very flat and there's just like nothing happening, right? So that's the freeze response. And then we have fawn. And so fawning is actually a people-pleasing state. So this is like usually struggling with boundaries. This is like the person that'll like bend over backwards for their clients. And not that that's a bad thing, but it's in the detriment of their own sense of health, well-being. They start to feel resentful and irritated by their business and like just like agitation towards their business because they're going above and beyond. But then it's like more, it just turns into like people taking advantage of the situation instead of them actually feeling like they're contributing or doing and getting paid and are being valued. So again, struggling with boundaries. This is like undercharging or avoiding your sales. So you might even just be avoiding making, like not, I don't even say making sales, but like initiating the sales conversation or marketing the sales conversation, like marketing your products, right? So you could be avoiding the sales conversation, and that could also be just like because it's like an avoidant of conflict. You don't want to get into a conversation where someone might have a objection or those sorts of things. You also might be overly flexible, again, to avoid conflict, where let's say it's something like, so for me, so I'm a manual osteopath. So let's say there is a really chatty client that I have and we have an hour together, right? They've booked an hour time slot. If they're super chatty, I, as the practitioner, either have to work with, okay, how do we Like, okay, let's talk, but get you on the table. Let's, but it's like, we're not going to go to like an hour and 20 minutes just because you're a chatty Cathy, right? So it's having that boundary. Oftentimes, though, the people pleasing and the fawning will start to happen where you'll go over in time because that's just the way they are, and you don't want to set the boundary. You don't want to have potentially the conflict or give them less treatment to make up for the communication, right? All those types of things could start to come up. But then you start to feel resentful because you're like, I'm now with this client for an hour and a half and they only paid for an hour, right? So stuff like that. Again, the fawning looks really good in the beginning, but then when we continue our business, it can start to be really irritating and really annoying, and you can start to build that resentment towards your business and your clients, right? So we want to kind of avoid that and do have those hard conversations. And so, but again, all of this comes in with being able to regulate our nervous system. Now, dysregulation in our business is really going to show up in like decisions. It's going to show up in our visibility. So how well we're able to kind of show up, or whether we want to be seen, even although a lot of us want to, but we have a fear of it. It can show up in our pricing. So maybe we're undercharging for a lot of things, but it can also show up in like launching things or talking about new products or putting ourselves out there, right? Depending on how your business is structured. So some signs that your nervous system is blocking your business growth. So obviously we've talked about a few of these things. One of them being the procrastination and the like avoidance of things, avoidance of the actions that we know we need to take. Again, this is a process. I'm still in this. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard, but there's like a saying, and I don't know who it's from or who says it, but like if you want to do personal development and you want to grow as a person, start a business, because it is going to test you. It is going to trigger different wounds you didn't even know you had, ones that aren't maybe as obvious as others, right? Like if you want that, start a business. And I know I've been through a lot when it comes to business. I've experienced a lot of these things. And you really have to get comfortable with really putting yourself out there and not being afraid to be yourself. Especially when you decide to start a business and you're like, well, I want it to reflect me. I want it to be in alignment with me. And so there's always this like, oh, if it doesn't feel right. Feel like sometimes it's like we go into jobs and we're like, yeah, well, obviously that's just the way the job is. This is somebody else's dream, right? But when it's a business and it's yours, you're like, this doesn't feel good, right? And so we keep trying to better ourselves and improve ourselves so that we do get to that place where our business does feel good. So some signs that your nervous system is showing up and potentially blocking some of your growth. Like I said, chronic procrastination or perfectionism. The overworking, again, like that, like hustling, where it burns you out, or the shutdown, right? So more of that freeze response where you're just like avoiding. Now you could find that you hustle and you grind and you overwork, and then you get to this place where you shut down and you end up in that burnout state. So you could find yourself in both of those at different times. And so it's really knowing your limits. Fear of being seen, being visible, people reaching out to you, having conversations, right? Charging more, setting boundaries, all of those components. If you struggle with any of those, I know for me, like when I first started my my manual practice, like my osteo, not so much my osteo, but when I have my massage license as well. So when I started that, when I was like fresh out of school, I was like so nervous to like tell people that like your treatment's going to cost however many dollars it was at the time, which is so funny because a lot of people book it knowing that that's the cost. But it took me a long while. And as I've upped my prices, that has come up time and again. But it's, again, normalizing that in your physical body so that you get comfortable, right? Get comfortable with the new normal, and then, you'll elevate again, and you'll have to probably re-regulate that into your system. And then physical symptoms that maybe can mirror resistance in us. So this is going to show up as like tense shoulders, maybe headaches. So like, what does your body do under stress, right? This can also show up as like, if you're more of a burnout person or you've been in burnout, this could show up as like illness, disease, chronic pain, right? It could show up as a lot of different things. I see this all the time in women in my clinic, obviously. And so, yeah, this could very much show up physically for you. Those ones might be harder to notice, or to connect the dots, which is what I like to help people with, is connect the physical side of things and what's manifesting in our life, and like, how do we connect those things, or how are they connected, right? And a lot of times when we deal with the mental, emotional things, our physical body will start to feel a lot better. So our physical body can really be signs that we're out of alignment. So those are some signs, some things that can kind of show up for you. There's obviously a ton more. We're going to get into more things in different episodes about, different components of like fear of being seen and all those little things. We'll kind of talk about those more in depth. But that's kind of a general overview of like, your nervous system has a huge impact on how you show up in your business. And so if you constantly feel like, I'm doing all the things, or I know what I should be doing and I just can't seem to get myself there, there's a disconnect between you, your business, and your nervous system. And so it's like, how can we get these things on the same page? And I have, like I said, definitely experienced this. I'm continuing to experience it, but I'm working myself through it. And this is where tools and exercises that you see online, right? The vagus nerve, breathing, and all that stuff, those can be super supportive during this process. But we have to know what we're trying to heal. So we have to know, okay, I'm afraid of charging more, right? That's bringing up some insensitive anxiousness in me, or some type of feeling, right? It's dysregulating me in some sort of way. When you know that, now you know when you can use the tool. Now there's the proper intention. There's the right intention, rather than just randomly doing breath work every day and just hoping that it's working with that, right? This gives us the ability to get more specific with the tools that we're using, why we're using them, and when we're using them, which is why I think a lot of people don't feel like maybe certain tools or resources or exercises have helped them, and it's because they're just kind of using them willy-nilly. And sure, it can make you feel good during your day, right? But when it comes to really making change, that's when we can get really specific with when we're doing things and why we're doing it. So I do believe in tools, but I also feel like there's a when and a where and a why that comes with that a lot of people aren't talking about. And this is really what I do go through in my coaching with my Elevate Her program. It's 12 weeks. I will be opening up space for that in July. So if you are interested in that, the link for that will be down below again in the show notes, but you guys can also reach out to me on Instagram if you have any questions, or if you're wondering if it's like the right program for you, or what's kind of entailed, what you can kind of expect, because I want people in there that it's going to be in alignment with, right? I want people to really see the benefit and also get the benefit, but feel like it's in a way that's supportive for them. So some things that you can kind of start to think about for like reflection questions. So you can ask yourself, like, when do you feel the most unsafe in your business? So what's the most uncomfortable thing? What do you not like can sometimes be a hidden thing that is uncomfortable. And you might not like it just because it's foreign, it's unfamiliar, right? It's just like not something you're good at. Anything that makes you feel different, it makes you feel agitated, it makes you feel irritated, it makes you question yourself, it makes you question your abilities. What are those little things that are showing up in your business that are, again, maybe preventing you from moving forward? So pay attention to what feels unsafe for you in your business. The other question is, what part of success makes you feel anxious or out of control? So on the other end of it, and this is often a hard question to ask ourselves, because a lot of times we're like, well, I obviously want success, right? You might logically, but your body can be afraid of that, again, because it's unfamiliar. You've never had that level. You've never experienced that thing. And so your body's like, you say it's going to be better, but I don't know if it's really going to be better, right? So What part of success makes you feel anxious? Is it the putting yourself out there? Is it the fact that you're going to be different than your group of friends? Is it the fact that when you're successful, you're going to make more money than somebody? Is it the fact that, you feel like you're not going to resonate with people in your life? Or is it the fact that you think it's going to take away time from your family, or you're going to have to work really hard to maintain that level of success, right? What is it that makes you anxious around success? And you're going to have to really sit with that one, because again, logically we all go, oh, well, like nothing. I obviously want success. And like, yes, we do. Again, from a logical perspective and a survival perspective, but our bodies don't know what that means. It's never experienced it. And so that feels unsafe, even though staying where we are can feel unsafe at times, right? So it's a bit of a nuance. It can get a little complicated in that way, where you're like, well, I want this, but I'm here, but this doesn't feel good either. But then I can't go to this thing because that's uncomfortable, right? It's like, again, there's just that disconnect, and it's through our physical body, through our nervous system, through our thoughts, our beliefs, and ingraining that, connecting it with the body, that we can start to make the change, and we can start to make the shift in how we feel and how we show up in our business. So that's kind of today in a bit of a nutshell. Like I said, I do have my free quiz. So if you guys are interested in kind of like, oh, well, like I think I might have this pattern, or maybe you have no clue, you guys can take that quiz and figure out, it'll give you kind of like what state you're in. It also gives you a little bit of things like how it shows up in the body. It also will give you ways you can kind of get back into alignment. So kind of like what you can kind of start to look at or start to explore. So it's really supportive about like kind of a little bit of like next steps. And like I said, I will be opening up a couple spaces in my Elevate Her 12-week coaching program. So if that's something that interests you, this is 100% like for sure foundational things that we go through in that program. So not only identifying where you're at, but how can we start to implement this? How can we start to help your nervous system feel safe so that you can start to move forward in your business, but also in your life? Because maybe your business is going well, but you're having struggles with balancing that in your personal life, right? So it's just that connection, getting things all on the same page, and helping you feel successful in your entire life, have a good business, a successful business, but also feel really successful and really good in your life as well. So if that's something that interests you, like I said, there is the link for that down below, but you can also reach out to me on Instagram with any questions that you have. My Instagram link will be down below too. But other than that, that's what I got for you guys today. So hopefully that, like I said, resonates. Let me know if you're on YouTube. You guys can leave a comment, anything you want to say. And then otherwise, if you are not on YouTube, you guys can shoot me a message. Shoot me a message on Instagram. Let me know, or you can keep it to yourself, whatever you kind of feel like doing. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I will be back next week with another episode, and we will go from there. So have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.